bow of the Titanic on the seafloor. The ROV subsequently found additional debris. In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. Upon this determination, we immediately notified the families. On behalf of the United States Coast Guard and the entire Unified Command, I offer my deepest condolences to the families. I can only imagine what this has been like for them, and I hope that this discovery provides some solace during this difficult time. Additionally, we've been in close contact with the British and French Consuls General to ensure that they are fully apprised and that their concerns are being addressed. The outpouring of support in this highly complex search operation has been robust and immensely appreciated. We are grateful for the rapid mobilization of experts on the undersea search and rescue, and we thank all of the agencies and personnel for their role in the response. We're also incredibly grateful for the full spectrum of international assistance that's been provided. The ROVs will remain on scene and continue to gather information. Again, our most heartfelt condolences go out to the loved ones of the crew. We'll now take questions.
John, what other debris have you found? John, what other
Rear
debris
Admiral,
have you
can
found?
you talk about the delay in reporting the vessel missing and what impact that had on the recovery? Search and recovery?
This was a incredibly complex case, and we're still working to develop the details for the timeline involved with this casualty and the response. And so we'll provide that.
James Matthews from Sky News. John, what other debris have you found? And have you found any trace of those who were on board?
So this is an incredibly complex operating environment on the seafloor, over 2 miles beneath the surface. And so the remote operating vehicle has been searching, and it is highly capable. And we've been able to classify parts of the pressure chamber for the Titan submersible. Let me refer to one of my undersea experts here, Mr. Paul Hankin, to talk about the nature of some of the debris.
Thank you, Admiral. So essentially we found 5 different major pieces of debris that told us that it was the remains of the Titan. The initial thing we found was the nose cone, which was outside of the pressure hull. We then found a large debris field. Within that large debris field, we found the front end bell of the pressure hull. That was the first indication that there was a catastrophic event. Shortly thereafter, we found a second smaller debris field. Within that debris field, we found the other end of the pressure hull, the aft end bell, which was basically comprised of the totality of that pressure vessel. We continue to map the debris field, and as the Admiral said, we will do the best we can to fully map out what's down there.
Admiral, is there...
Thank you very much. It's a very difficult question to ask, but it will be an important one for the families, of course. What are the prospects of recovery of the bodies of the missing?
So the questions was related. I'm restating the question from the standpoint of sometimes it's hard to hear the question here. What are the prospects for recovering crew members? And so this is a incredibly unforgiving environment down there on the seafloor, and the debris is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel. And so we'll continue to work and continue to search the area down there, but I don't have an answer for prospects at this time.
Admiral, it's Tom Costello at NBC News. Is there any suggestion, any suggestion at all that the sub itself collided with the wreckage of Titanic, or that instead it might have imploded above the wreckage and then rained down nearby?
So the question was, is there any question as to whether or not the sub collided with the Titanic or whether it imploded above and debris field created from that? So the location of the Titan submersible was in an area that was approximately 1,600 feet from the wreck of the Titanic. I have an expert here that is familiar with that area and can talk about the debris field and what the debris field indicates in terms of where the casualty may have occurred.
Rear Admiral, really quickly, can you tell me when that...
Wait, let's get the expert voice, please. Hang on a second. The expert voice is coming up to answer the question.
Thank you, Admiral. So the question is, where does the wreck lie in relation to the Titanic? I didn't hear the Admiral's answer. I think 1,600 feet. Was that correct, Admiral?
Yep, you got it.
So that's off the bow of Titanic. It's in an area where there is not any debris of Titanic. It is a smooth bottom. To my knowledge and anything I've seen, there's no Titanic wreckage in that area. And again, 200 plus meters from the bow, and consistent with the location of last communication for an implosion in the water column. And the size of the debris field is consistent with that implosion in the water column.
Thanks.
Well, if I can ask you a question, in terms of the timing here, you say that this was a catastrophic implosion. And I know it's early on, but is it your estimation that this happened right at the moment when they lost contact, an hour and 45 minutes after their descent?
So the question was about the timing of the catastrophic implosion. Right now, it is too early to tell with that. We know that as we've been prosecuting this search over the course of the last 72 hours and beyond, that we've had sonar buoys in the water nearly continuously and have not detected any catastrophic events when those sonar buoys have been in the water. So,
Admiral, can you describe what happens from here, sir, in the next days and weeks in terms of finding any more debris? What happens from here?
So we will, the question was what happens from here, what's the next phase? And so right now, again, our thoughts are with the families and making sure that they have an understanding as best as we can provide of what happened and begin to find some closure. In terms of the large process, we're going to continue to investigate the site of the debris field. And then I know that there's also a lot of questions about how, why, and when did this happen. And so, you know, those are questions that we will collect as much information as we can on now, while the governments are meeting and discussing, you know, what an investigation of this nature of a casualty might look like. This is something that happened, I'll just remind everybody, this is something that happened in a remote portion of the ocean with people from, you know, several different countries around the world And so it is a complex case to work through, but I'm confident that those questions will begin to get answered.
Will the Coast Guard lead the investigation, sir?
From the UK, is there any suggestion that time factors, speed, anything could have prevented this or saved the 5 people on board, or is this quite simply a catastrophic accident?
The question was there any suggestion that time factors may have played a role or consideration in the casualty here? And so the debris field is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel. Again, while we were prosecuting the search, we had listening devices in the water throughout and did not hear any signs of catastrophic failure from those. And so we're going to continue to investigate, or we're going to continue to document the information there and understand, based on all the information we have, the timeline.
What does this mean for the resources required for the investigation? Which ship will be pulling out and coming in?
So the question was, what are the resources required for the investigation, and which ships will be pulling out and staying in? And so it's too early for me to talk about an investigation. That's a decision that's going to be taken outside of the search and efforts that I was leading. But we do have a number of vessels. We have 9 vessels on the scene right now. We had medical personnel on scene. We had other technicians on scene. And so we will begin to demobilize personnel and vessels from the scene over the course of the next 24 hours. But we're going to continue remote operations on the seafloor. And I don't have a timeline for when we would intend to stop remote operations on the seafloor at this point.
Admiral, as a result of this, do you think there should be changes in the way these are safety rated or inspected so that this won't happen again?
Yeah, the question was essentially about do you think that there should be changes in safety ratings or inspection for these standards? I know that there's a lot of questions about why, how, when this happened, and the members of the Unified Command, have those questions too, as professionals and experts that work in this environment. And this is an incredibly difficult and dangerous environment to work in out there. But those questions about the regulations that apply and the standards, that's going to be, I'm sure, focus of future review. Right now, we're focused on documenting the scene and continuing the subfloor.
I know we don't know the timing here. We don't know the timing here, but there was the banging noises yesterday that redirected and redeployed the ROVs to this area. Is there anything conclusive in those noises, and did that redirection and then finding this debris field today all help?
So throughout the search efforts, we reacted to the information that we had available to us, and while we continue to send it off for deeper analysis. Again, really complex operating environment for us to work in. Let me check with the experts, but there doesn't appear to be any connection between the noises and the location on the seafloor. Again, this was a catastrophic implosion of the vessel, which would have generated a significant broadband sound down there that the sonar buoys would have picked up.
Admiral, a lot of questions about who might be...
Admiral, you mentioned closure for the families. Admiral, can I just ask you about your comment regarding the families?
They dropped into the ocean today, arrived early this morning. It seems that Swiftly was able to find them and rebuild. We talked about the speed of that. And also, were all of the assets involved moved as swiftly as possible to the area? Was any help turned away, as some lawmakers have criticized?
This was a incredibly complex operation, and we were able to mobilize an immense amount of gear to the site in just a really remarkable amount of time, given the fact that we started without any sort of vessel response plan for this or any sort of pre-stage resources. And so the equipment that was brought on site this morning that we were using was a pelagic ROV capable of operating at 6,000 meters, cameras, sonar, other articulating arms and resources on it. And it, we had to transport it here through C-17 aircraft. This is 2 aircraft that it took to get this up here. And so we've really had the right gear on site and worked as swiftly as possible to bring all of the capabilities that we had to bear to this search and rescue effort. And it was just a huge international and interagency effort to make this happen. So I'm really grateful for all of the responders that came out to support this and really search for the vessel. It is a difficult day for all of us, and it's especially difficult for the families, and our thoughts are with the families today. But this was an immense support, and we had the right gear on the bottom to find it. So thank you.
Admiral, you mentioned Admiral.
Will you attempt to recover the bodies, can we ask you, though? The victims, will they be recovered?
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending this afternoon. There are no future planned press conferences. Updates will be shared to the USCG Northeast Twitter page, and our staff will be available to take down any questions following this.
Can you
Thank
spell
you.
and give us the names of each gentleman who spoke?
I have no sound.
I can get that back to you afterwards.
U.S. Coast Guard announcing some sad news. 5 passengers that were missing on the submersible have sadly been lost, and the families have been notified. Now, this news comes as we've been telling you that the Coast Guard had announced it found debris near the Titanic, and the Coast Guard says the remnants were found about 1,600 feet from the bow of the Titanic on the seafloor. Let's bring in our Sarah Galashan, who is watching along with us. Sarah, they gave some details of some of the remnants they were able to confirm were pieces of that submersible.
That's right, Hannah. So we knew from that tweet earlier from the U.S. Coast Guard that they had found a debris field, and there were a lot of questions about what that might be. And what we know now from this press conference is that, in fact, they have found, they said, some 5 major pieces of what was, they've now confirmed, the Titan, the Ocean Gate Titan submersible. Among the pieces that they have found, there's the nose cone. They talked about that being the first piece that was discovered, and then after that, they found a large debris field, and from there, within that debris field, the front end bell of the pressure hull was determined to be within that debris field, and then another major item here, in the second smaller debris field that was discovered, the other end of the pressure hull. They say that based on those items, what they have seen in these debris fields and the debris they have found, that this indicates that the end of the Titan came with what they're calling a catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. It would have, they say, made a significant sound underwater at that depth. Obviously, would have been detected by, they say, sonar buoys that had been placed under the water trying to detect, you'll remember, trying to hear if there were any sounds of the Titan. And so in terms of the timing of this, they say that they don't believe that this could have happened once those buoys were actually placed in to hear what they had initially had heard that banging noise and thought it might be connected, and they now say they do not believe that that was connected. That in fact, as I say, this catastrophic implosion is how they're describing it, would have happened if you're listening there before those buoys had been placed into the water. The confirmation of the deaths of the 5 who were on board the Titan, we had that coming to us from Ocean Gate, the company itself, about 5 minutes before this, the press conference with the U.S. Coast Guard took place. I want to read you just a little bit of what Ocean Gate put out in their statement. They said, "We now believe that our CEO, Stockton Rush, Shahzada Dawood, and his son, Suleiman Dawood, Hamish Harding, and Paul-Henri Nagelet have sadly been lost." Of course, we know Stockton Rush, the CEO, was the pilot of the Titan, and the others were paying passengers, paying as much as $250,000, Hannah, to take part in this dive down to see the Titanic. And sadly, this was an unsuccessful mission, and these lives have been lost.
Yeah, a very sad news day for sure. What happens now, Sarah?
Well, they said that they're continuing to keep the ROVs, the remote operating vehicles, in that area. They also did, though, talk about what was the word? Demobilizing. There's some significant presence out in that area. They were asked, so in other words, demobilizing, bringing some of the ships that had been brought there in the event that there might be a rescue. You know, the hyperbolic chambers, all of the medics that were on site in case there was the need for taking apart the Titan, unbolting it, and rescuing these individuals. That will all be starting to demobilize at this point. They did say that the remote operating vehicles that they have are the right tools to have had on the ground for this kind of a search, and that there's perhaps more to be found related to this. They were asked at the end, would they be trying to recover the bodies of those who were on board the Titan? But from the sounds of what they're describing here, this catastrophic implosion and the complexity of searching, you know, at the depths of almost 4,000 meters where the Titanic is, it does not sound like that is something that is achievable. They didn't really answer that question, though.
Yeah, they did say that they are trying to get a timeline, as you say, for families to help them with closure. Sarah, thank you for the update on this.
You bet.
We're going to continue on this story, and we've reached Stephen McGinty. He is the author of The Dive, the untold story of the world's deepest submarine rescue, and we've reached him in Glasgow, Scotland. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you.
I was watching, actually, I saw you up there listening to the press conference. Let me just get your reaction to the latest.
It's just deeply sad. I think everyone who's been following this story around the world had hoped that the consequence of it, or the finale of it, would have been that the vessel would have been discovered in the depths, and all these collective resources from Canada, from America, from Europe would have pulled together and found a way to get them safely to the surface. That was the end that everyone hoped for. But tragically, that is not the case. It's clear that the vessel, there was, as the Admiral explained, a catastrophic implosion, and that all 5 people inside the submarine would have been killed effectively instantly. So, a comparison to suffocating over a long period of time, then that is one of the few blessings we can take from this discovery. But it's deeply sad news. It's obviously devastating for the families.
There really was no indication, though. The timeline is one of the things I'm sure families are wondering about. That's what reporters were trying to understand from the Coast Guard as well, about when that catastrophic explosion would have happened. Was there any indication to you?
Well, all everyone can go with is the idea that the vessel left the surface at a certain point and then was in constant communication with the surface. And then I think it was, 1 hour 20 or 1 hour 30 minutes into the descent, all communication ended. Now, you would think that would have been the point at which this catastrophic implosion took place. So one of the hypotheses that people will be working on is there was obviously some kind of issue with the submarine, and it reached a certain point where the pressures were so great. We don't know, but obviously some fault took place that caused the the internal pressure to go, and for the submarine to be crushed effectively like a can by the massive pressures of water outside it. That's all the evidence supports that idea. There's no evidence so far that supports the idea that they lost communication and then an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day later that this accident happened. I think that will be the theory that the evidence supports at the moment. They'll obviously be looking to see if that changes, but that would be the conclusion that 1 hour, 40 minutes or whatever it was into the dive, when they lost communications with them, that's when the vessel imploded.
Your book is about the deepest ever rescue of a submarine. Can you tell us about, the differences, that effort to this one?
Well, it's interesting because, watching it unfold, there was so many similarities. First of all, there was the idea that Pisces 2 was a revolutionary submarine designed by a Canadian, Al Trice. It was tested, it was put together by the T-shirt boys, as they were known. They were divers in the 60s who wanted to build a commercial small submarine. They built it in a mushroom cannery factory in Vancouver. They tested it in the waters when the US Navy were unknown at the time, testing a torpedo at the time. So it was kind of radicals and kind of inventive characters who made this Pisces together. The crucial difference, and this was brought to me when I spoke to the man, Doug Huntington, who designed the rescue toggle on that original operation. He's obviously been following this story. And what he said was that Pisces was a pioneering submarine, but they still worked with all the authorities. They were still insured by Lloyd's of London because they stuck to the rules, and they road tested it prior to it being used. But again, when that ship sank, when that submarine sank, a boat as they're known, it was the deepest that any submarine had ever been lost. So everyone expected that the rescue wouldn't take place, and that's what people were imagining that would take place today, and sadly that is the case. But the same thing happened. Resources were flown in '73 from San Diego. They were flown from Canada, and they were flown from Europe, from Britain, effectively, and they all pulled together on the surface. The difference was, from the very beginning in Pisces 2, they knew the men were alive because they were in constant contact with them. That was the crucial difference, that they knew they were down there. It was just a question of how did they get them to the surface.
We did hear there were concerns about this submersible, and that's been in the headlines recently. What were the concerns that you saw about this one?
Well, I've been following just the same as everyone else, the idea that it was made from a different type of material, that carbon fiber, I think it is, that other submarines have been made from. I was listening to one of the programs on CNN earlier today, and they were talking about how all the other vessels that can go to this depth, i.e. the depth of 2 miles down, have been certified, whereas this one wasn't. So clearly the company decided to go, and the pioneer who made it, the chief executive, who's now sadly lost, decided to go with their own design, which has clearly worked for a certain amount of time, but we will not know till further along what the problem was. But clearly there was a catastrophic problem, and so sadly 5 lives are lost as a consequence.
Yep, it is true and very, very sad. Stephen McGinty, I want to thank you for your time and being on the program today.
No, you're welcome.